forgotten text called the Prayer of Joseph has Jacob say, in his own words, that he was not a man at all, but a ruling angel who lived before his mother ever carried him. If suppressed history and the texts they removed from Scripture are what you came for, subscribe right now and hit the bell. This channel goes straight to the manuscripts and the fragment numbers. Mainstream scholarship never connects. Now let's go deeper. He gives his name, Jacob, the same man from Genesis who wrestled the angel by the river Jabbok all night and would not let go. Except in this text, he says he was the angel. And then comes the sentence that got the whole thing erased from every canon. I am the firstborn of every living thing. Read that sentence again. A patriarch is telling you he is an angel, not that he met one, not that one visited him, that he is one, and that he ranked above the living before the living existed. Someone made sure that line did not survive in Scripture. It survived anyway. Here is how. The Prayer of Joseph does not exist as a full book. Not anymore. It survives for one reason only. The church father Origen quoted it in his commentary on John in the 3rd century because he was trying to argue a point about souls that existed before birth. He reached for this text as evidence, and in doing so, he saved it. What he saved is almost nothing, 3 fragments. Roughly 9 sentences of the original. That is the entire wreckage. A book that was once known, once read, once copied, was left outside every canon and allowed to rot until only Origen's citation remained. 9 sentences. That is what someone couldn't quite kill. So, listen to what those sentences actually say, word by word. Jacob speaks in the first person. I, Jacob, who am speaking to you, am also Israel, an angel of God and a ruling spirit. He does not stop there. He says Abraham and Isaac were created before any work, before anything was made. And of himself, he says he is the archangel of the power of the Lord and the chief captain among the sons of God. Read it plainly, before we argue a single thing about what it means. A patriarch, one of the 3 founding fathers of Israel, is claiming a rank in the angelic order, not a title of honor, a position, chief captain, ruling spirit. He is placing himself inside the command structure of heaven and telling you which seat he holds. Hold that word, firstborn. It matters more than it looks. Firstborn of every living thing is not a birth date. It is a claim to precede birth entirely, to have existed before the flesh that carried the name Jacob was ever formed. And here is the thing that should stop you. This idea, spirits that exist before flesh and come down into a human body, is not some strange one-off from a poet nobody read. It is the exact cosmology of another text, a text preserved in Gaias by the church at Qumran and found in 11 separate Aramaic copies in the caves at Qumran, where heavenly beings descending into earthly life were written down, not as poetry, but as record. Go to chapter 40. Enoch is shown the throne, and around it stand 4 figures, named and ranked, 4 archangels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Phanuel, each with a station, each with a voice. This is not vague spirituality. It is an ordered chain of command in the heavens, with rank and place. And that is the exact order Israel claims to hold a seat in when he calls himself the chief captain among the sons of God. Then go back to chapters 6 through 16. The Watchers, 200 spirits who look down from heaven at the daughters of men and decide to come down. They descend onto Mount Hermon. They take bodies. They take wives. They teach forbidden knowledge, and the earth is ruined for it. Read that against the Prayer of Joseph, and you feel the mirror snap into place. The Watchers go down, and it is a fall. Jacob comes down, and it is a mission. Same movement, spirit into flesh, pointed in opposite directions, and this is preserved evidence, not a rumor. The church at Qumran kept the Book of Enoch alive in Gaias when the rest of the world let it go. Then the caves at Qumran gave back 11 separate Aramaic copies of it. 11. more than most of the books that made the final cut. Whoever buried these scrolls thought this text mattered more than half the Bible. Now the name, Israel. In Hebrew, Yisrael, from the root Sarah. It is read as one who struggles with God. That is the Genesis story. Jacob wrestles the stranger by the river, refuses to let go, and is renamed for the fight. The name is a reward the man earned in a single night. But the prayer of Joseph reverses it. Here, Israel is not the prize at the end. Israel is the name that came first, the name of the ruling spirit, and Jacob is the human suit he put on afterward. Read the name backwards from the man. The name came first. The man borrowed it. Not a title earned by flesh, but a spirit lending its identity to a body. And the fragment ranks that spirit against the angels directly. Uriel, whose name means fire of God, disputes his standing with Jacob. And Jacob tells him he ranks only eighth after him. A patriarch putting an archangel 8 places below himself. Mainstream scholarship has an answer ready. It calls the prayer a late Hellenistic Jewish poem, mystical elaboration, beautiful and invented, nothing historical behind it. Fair enough as far as it goes, but it does not go far enough. A poem does not accidentally match Enoch's throne room verse for verse. The ranks, the descent, the sons of God, the named archangels, all of it lines up with a cosmology written down independently and buried in 11 copies in the desert. Call it poetry if you like. Poetry does not map this cleanly onto another text's documented order. Before we go further, stop for a second. What you just heard, the name flip and the rank dispute, is the part that changes everything, but it only holds together written out next to the original notation. The chapter cross-references, the gaze, the translated fragment. I put all of it into a written document. It is linked below and the QR code is on your screen. Take 5 seconds, grab it, and come back, because what comes next builds directly on it. Because everything so far is Jacob describing himself, his claim, his rank, his name. But the sentence that turns the entire case is the one where a second voice says it about him. Uriel comes down and says it out loud. The fragment reads, Uriel the angel came down and said that I, Jacob, had descended to earth and tabernacled among men, and that I had been called by the name Jacob. Read it slowly. This is no longer Jacob claiming rank for himself. This is another angel, standing over him, confirming that the human life was a descent, a spirit wearing a body. Stay on one word, tabernacled. In the ancient sense, a tabernacle is a tent, something you pitch and then take down. You do not get born into a tent. You move into it. You dwell there for a while, and then you leave. So when the text says Jacob descended and tabernacled among men, it is not describing a birth. It is describing a spirit pitching a tent in flesh, staying only as long as the tent stands. Now I have to be honest about where the text ends and where I begin. The fragment says descended and tabernacled. It does not spell out what that means for Abraham, for Isaac, for the whole line. That next step is mine. The text does not make this connection. The structure does. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here is the reading. The prayer of Joseph preserves an older belief the canon scrubbed out. That the founding fathers of Israel were not simply men who happened to be chosen. They were understood as pre-existent spirits, wearing bodies for a time. That is what this text says Jacob was before he was born. Not a soul that began at conception, a ruling angel who already existed, who already had a name, who came down and put on a man. The firstborn spirit, the firstborn of every living thing. And look what that gives you. 2 directions, 1 pattern. The watchers in Enoch descend from heaven into the human sphere and corrupt it. Jacob descends from heaven into the human sphere and founds a nation. Heaven coming down into flesh, told twice, from 2 ends. One version was kept in Scripture as a warning. The other was cut out entirely. Same movement, same border between spirit and body, crossed in the same direction. And that is the thread that runs through everything here. Someone kept trying to erase the idea that spirits precede flesh, and someone kept preserving it anyway. It survived in Ge'ez at Aksum, carried out of Africa in 1773. It survived in Aramaic, in the caves at Qumran. And this piece survived in one place only, buried in a footnote by the church father Origen, who quoted it in the 3rd century to argue a point, and without meaning to, saved it. Which brings us back to the size of what almost vanished. A patriarch declaring he was an archangel, that he ruled among the sons of God, that he came down and tabernacled in a man. A claim that large, and it came through to us on 9 sentences. 9. That means the erasure very nearly worked. Every council that wanted it gone almost got its wish, and it still failed. 9 sentences outlived all of them. That is the weight I want you to leave with. Not that the prayer of Joseph proves anything about the world. That an idea this dangerous was cut and buried and cut again, and it refused to stay dead, in 3 separate languages, held by 3 separate hands, who did not agree on much else. If the removed texts are what you came for, subscribe and hit the bell, because this channel goes straight to the fragments. And tell me which source carries the most weight for you. Enoch, Qumran, or the 9 sentences Origen saved. The next case is already on screen. Go read it.